You send a message and immediately regret it. Not because you said something wrong, but because you said anything at all. You start wondering, was that too much? Did I interrupt something? Are they annoyed that I reached out? And then you wait, watching the screen, analyzing how long they're taking to reply, telling yourself they're probably busy, but secretly convinced they're tired of you. And the worst part? You do this with everyone. Friends, family, even people who have never made you feel unwelcome. You apologize before asking for help. You add, "sorry to bother you," to every message. You convince yourself your presence is an inconvenience, even when nobody ever said that. So where does this feeling come from, and why does it feel so permanent? Because it isn't random, and it isn't weakness. There's something very specific happening inside you, and once you understand it, you'll finally know why this feeling exists, and more importantly, why it lies. This feeling doesn't come from nowhere. It has a beginning. For most people, it started very early. Maybe you grew up feeling guilty for needing anything at all, like every request came with a price. Or maybe nothing dramatic happened at all. Maybe it was quieter than that. A parent who was always stressed, a caregiver who was emotionally unavailable, a home where you learned, without anyone saying it, that the safest thing to do was take up less space, need less, ask less, feel less. And so you adapted. You became someone who checks before they speak, who reads the room before entering it, who measures their words before releasing them. Not because you're weak, but because at some point, staying small felt like staying safe. Psychologists have a name for this pattern. It's called anxious attachment. And it doesn't usually appear overnight. It develops quietly, when connection feels uncertain, when the people you needed most were sometimes there and sometimes not. And over time, your brain learns a dangerous lesson, that connection isn't always safe. And when connection feels unpredictable, the brain becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning for signs of rejection. Any delayed reply, any change in tone, any moment of distance, and slowly, the brain starts treating these moments as evidence that you're too much, that your presence is something people tolerate, not something they genuinely enjoy. But here's the truth. The brain would rather predict rejection than be surprised by it, so it assumes the worst before the worst can happen. And once this pattern forms, it starts showing up everywhere. You need something, but you don't ask, because asking feels like imposing. Someone doesn't reply for a few hours, and your mind writes an entire story, a story they never wrote. You share something personal and immediately wish you hadn't. You cancel plans because you convince yourself they didn't really want you there. You shrink in groups, you over-explain in conversations, you apologize for existing in spaces you were invited into. And underneath all of it is a single terrifying belief that if people really knew how much you needed, they would leave. Here's what makes this so heartbreaking. The people who feel like they're always bothering others are almost never the ones who actually bother people. Think about who actually bothers people. The ones who never consider how their words affect others. The ones who never wonder if they're taking too much. That's not you. You check constantly. You consider everything. You worry so much about becoming a burden that you stop yourself from reaching out at all. And that's the irony. The very fact that you worry about being too much is proof that you probably aren't. But this constant self-monitoring comes with a cost. It costs you connection, because nobody can truly know you if you're always hiding the parts that need something. It costs you support, because you never ask for help, even when you're overwhelmed, even when you're drowning. It costs you your own voice, because you've spent so long editing yourself for others that sometimes you forget what you actually think, what you actually feel, what you actually want. And maybe most painfully, It costs you the experience of being chosen, of knowing that someone genuinely wants you around, not because you made yourself smaller, but because they actually want you, all of you. So here is what I want you to hear. The feeling that you are bothering people is not a fact. It is a learned response. It is your nervous system doing what it was trained to do, protecting you from rejection by rejecting yourself first before anyone else gets the chance. And that might have made sense once, when making yourself invisible felt safer than being seen. But you are not that person anymore. And the people in your life right now are not the same people who taught you that fear. Your needs are not an inconvenience. Your presence is not a burden. Your voice is not an interruption. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to need things. You are allowed to reach out without apologizing for it. The next time you hesitate before sending that message, remember this: that feeling is old. It learned to protect you, but it was never telling you the truth. The truth is simpler than the fear. Some people genuinely want to hear from you. Some people notice when you go quiet. Some people miss you more than you realize. They're not waiting for the smaller version of you or the quieter version. They're waiting for the real one, the one you've spent years apologizing for being. Because the people worth keeping never make you apologize for being human. Never make you apologize for being human.